Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are in our last study in the series, Followers of Jesus. We hope it's been really helpful to you. I know that one of the frustrations that Dennis and I have talked about in between these videos is how much deeper we could be going on some of these things. And hopefully, the Bible study that you do alongside these little introductory videos takes you to some of those places. But we hope that all of these have been meaningful to you in one way or another. So I'm back here again with Dennis, and we are talking this time about how Jesus leads us away from false teaching. And false teaching is not always that easy to recognize. When we talk about golfers now, Dennis, a lot of times we say, that works for him. He should stick with that. Or that works for her. She's putting lower scores on the board. What works for you is not necessarily bad advice when it comes to golf, is it?
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, right? Look on the tour, so many styles, so
Yeah,
many approaches, so many swing theories, and many of them do work. I think probably underneath the diversity of opinions and philosophies of swing, there's some fundamentals that,
absolutely.
think about Matthew Wolff. He breaks every rule there on the backswing, on the takeaway, right? But wow, in transition, getting it in the slot, everybody would love to get in the slot. But I think to your point, what's maybe true out in the world of golf, that doesn't always apply to life, and certainly it doesn't apply to following Christ. A deeper discussion here.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I think maybe in this world where we have, tweets and memes and these little soundbite type statements, they get cross applied and they work fine in this setting. But boy, you try to apply that to the bigger aspect of life and you could find yourself in a real mess.
Jeff, one of the fascinating things about the times in which we live, uh, it hasn't been that long ago in my life that the big debates on college campuses or in the media was the content of truth.
Yeah.
Now, the concept of truth
Mm.
is up for grabs. So the very idea that there are universal absolutes and truths, and as a Christian, we have to say, absolutely, there is a God who has spoken. He's revealed himself in Scripture. In fact, to your question on this issue of how to know what's true and what's false, interestingly enough, Paul's letters, other than one, is addressing error.
True.
What gave the birth to the letter, say Galatians, right? He is addressing false teaching. And thank the Lord he's preserved all that for us in Scripture, because there really is nothing new under the sun.
Right.
There's a diversity of opinions out there about who he is, what his expectations are, how one might be right with him. But he has clearly told us those things in Scripture.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that Jesus is going to do is he's going to lead us to places, but he's going to lead us away from some places too. You are someone who's had pastoral background. I'm someone who's had pastoral background. And there's no question that we thought that the churches that we were pastoring, we were doing so in truth, in the truth of Scripture.
Right.
How does someone walking into a church, maybe they're new to church life and they're trying to pick a church, or they're new to a town and they're trying to pick a new church in that town, how do they know I'm getting good teaching here versus over here I'm not?
Yeah, big question. Couple of quick short answers. I love that text in Acts when it says the Bereans were more noble-minded because they searched the Scriptures to see if these things be so. In other words, they asked questions. I'd say practically one of the most important things is if you ask questions and get the runaround, run for the hills.
Yeah.
Right? So Bereans were more noble-minded because they searched the text of Scripture to see these things. And then even Paul, when he's in Acts 17 at Mars Hill or the Areopagus, and he's communicating to pagans. I'm not using that word, negatively, but that's exactly. I mean, these people were far afield. It said there were three responses to his teaching. Some believed, some mocked him, but some said they would consider and contemplate it further. So I'd say be quick to hear, slow to act. Just pay attention, and always. That's why we call the Bible the canon of Scripture, because it's the right teaching. We have our standard, and that just like every swing has to do some things fundamentally right. Scripture is our fundamental platform for understanding who's teaching what.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dennis. It has been a really good series. I know that our groups are so often blessed by what they get in these studies, and so it's nice to have you involved with this.
I've enjoyed it. Thanks for letting me tag along.
Yeah. Well, thank you to all of you who've been watching with us as we've talked about this in the last several weeks, and we're glad to have you with us. And we hope you join us soon for our next series here at Links Players.